Today's lesson is inspired by the events happening in Israel. We know of the war between Israel and Hamas, and I felt it would be great to just do a little bit of history to find out how this has progressed over the years. Those studying biblical prophecy in the late 1930s believed an evil power of darkness had been unleashed in Europe. A charismatic German dictator and tyrant named Adolf Hitler was initiating his solution to the world's problems by planning what historians would later identify as the Jewish Holocaust. To Jews, especially those in Europe, the word Nazi brings a haunting image of death trains on which Jewish families took their last ride before stepping into eternity. Others visualized ghostly images of concentration camps, where starving Jews' physical frames resembled skeletons covered with a layer of skin as they shivered on cold, splintered bunks. Like sheep going to slaughter, many would be marched to gas chambers, created to resemble innocent stalls of showers. To Hitler, all problems in the world were caused by the Jews. More details of this narrative were published in his book, Mein Kampf. When 1948 arrived, the world was missing 6 million Jews, including 1.5 million innocent children who had perished during the Nazi final solution. Most Holocaust survivors were without a permanent home, had few, if any, possession, and had watched their money, treasured possessions, and antiques seized by Hitler's men. At the end of the war, the survivors had one flame of hope flaming in their hearts: a homeland in Palestine. On May 1948 at midnight, the British mandate over Palestine ended, and a new Jewish nation with the name Israel was resurrected from the grave of history. Is it true that all world problems are caused by Jews, as insinuated by Hitler? And why target an entire race for elimination? I want to propose here that this was not the first time that a complete annihilation of the Jews had been considered. In the times of Esther, Haman had considered that possibility. It did not come to effect. Instead, Haman himself was killed in a complete reversal and overturn of his proposal. Other periods in which the Jews have come under great threat has been during the times the nation went into captivity. You will recall in the history of Israel, during the glorious reign of King Solomon, it concluded, however, with the warning that the kingdom would be divided. And the division happened during the reign of Rehoboam, the son of Solomon. 10 tribes formed the kingdom of Israel in the north. Two tribes formed the kingdom of Judah in the south. That was Judah and Benjamin. The two kingdoms would suffer captivity, one after the other. The last king of the northern kingdom, Israel, is Hoshea. He was captured by Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and the people of the northern kingdom were were deported to regions of Hala, Gozan, on the Harbor River, and in Medes towns. And then the king of Assyria brought people from Babylon, Kutha, Hamath, and other regions and settled them in northern Israel. On settling these people, they continued with their idol worship. And God was not happy with this, so he sent lions to kill them. The king had to look for a priest among the Jews to go back to these people and train them on how to worship the God of the land of Israel. In the southern kingdom of Judah, the last king is Zedekiah, who went into captivity to Babylon under King Nebuchadnezzar. This is well recorded, uh, and King Nebuchadnezzar is well known because his records are recorded in the book of First Kings, the book of Daniel. We have his records there. When he took over the southern kingdom, you'll notice that it was a very violent takeover. It is recorded that on the 11th day of the 5th month, in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, commander of the imperial guard and official of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. He set fire to the temple of the Lord. The whole Babylonian army under the command of the imperial guard broke down the walls around. He carried people into exile, and they totally routed the city. The takeover by these kings were very violent. Note that when Nebuchadnezzar took over Judah, he set fire to the temple of God built by King Solomon. He burnt the city of Jerusalem. He demolished all houses. Most of the men were killed in war. Women and children would be captured as war trophies and would end up serving as slave laborers in the capturing kingdom. Captivity meant that the Jews lost their identity and also lost their religion. The other notable forceful evictions and nomination over Israel over the years have included number one, the Roman rule. These reigned before Jesus was born and continued during the times of Jesus. And shortly before the crucifixion of Jesus, Jesus prophesied that Jerusalem would be destroyed and that the people would be scattered all over the world until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. This is recorded in Luke chapter 21. When would the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled? Many scholars have undertaken to just find out whether they can be able to predict the times. And one notable one is Dr. Guinness, who in 1986 he began calculating various time frames using biblical numbers from the book of Daniel and exchanging their normal meaning of prophetic days into prophetic years. The days prophesied by Daniel, 1260 and 2520, he converted them into years, and then he reckoned that the times of the Gentiles started in AD 622 with Muhammad. And upon his calculations, he concluded that these times would end in or around 1917. So, what notable event happened in Israel in 1917? In 1917, the end of the First World War, the British took Jerusalem, ending the long lasting occupation of the Islamic rulers, including the Turkish Ottoman rulers who had been in the land since 1500. The British took over Jerusalem and they would continue reigning up to 1948. It is in 1948 that the British rule over Israel came to an end and a ruler, a new Israel leader, was installed as the leader of Israel. So 1917 was a critical year, and based on the calculations of Dr. Guinness, it would appear that based on his calculations, this time versus what Daniel had predicted were rhyming. There are, however, different interpretations. There are those who feel that the times of the Gentiles did not start in 600 AD, and so there are debates around that. But what you find is that major happenings in Israel do denote a major event happening, and especially something that can be traced back to a prophecy. Like what happened in 1917 in Israel. General Edmund Allenby was leading the British cause in Israel. He was inspired by a prophecy given by Isaiah in Isaiah 31, which had said, Isaiah 31, verse 5, like birds hovering overhead, the Lord Almighty will shield Jerusalem. He will shield it and deliver it. He will pass over it and will rescue it. When he read this, they interpreted it to mean that warplanes would deliver Jerusalem. And so he requested for planes to drop leaflets in Israel warning the Turks. When the Turks heard and read the name Allenby, which could be and was misread as Allah and Nebi or prophet of God, the Turks believed that the message they were receiving came from Allah. And so they surrendered. And on December 9, 1917, the Turks surrendered the land to British. In 1948, after the Second World War, the British would go on and hand over the leadership of the land to an Israeli leader. And basically, our lesson today is that major happenings in Israel, including whatever is happening, can be interpreted based on prophecy that was given many years ago. Events in Israel denote some happening, especially that is prophesied by the Bible. And so it's a great lesson in terms of tracking what is happening in the world. I believe that Zechariah chapter 12 speaks a lot to what is happening now and what's likely to happen in the future.